Rabbi, there was on the new halacha group that exists from Machon Shilo. Mm-hmm. Somebody expressed doubt as to what your position was regarding meat and dairy, putting meat and dairy utensils in the dishwasher together. From what I recall many years ago, I understood from you that you could put them together.
It's interesting that you mentioned this because over this past Shabbat, just yesterday and the day before, we had a certain guest who was staying with us, and he asked this very same question. My answer is as follows. I do not think there is any reason at all to claim that it is impossible or wrong to place both halavi and basari milchik and fleshik dishes in the dishwasher together and to run the dishwasher and wash them together. I don't think there's any reason to think so. Why not? For a number of reasons. First of all, let me ask you this question. What happens if I take a piece of meat, kosher piece of meat, cold, and put it on a milchik plate? What is now the halachic status of that milchik plate? Is the plate treif? No. What do? You remove the meat, you put onto a fleshik plate, and you wash off the milchik plate with just cold water is sufficient. Wash it off, and it's fine. There cannot be any bili'ah, there cannot be any absorption without heat. That's number one. Okay, that's a simple fact. Second of all, we have the concept of also in practical terms. What happens when you let's say you have some dairy dishes and some meat dishes, and on each of these dishes there's some small residue of whatever was on the plate before. You put them in the dishwasher together, and let's say they even touch each other, right? So as I just explained, so what's going to happen? So let's say a plate that has on it some the residue of some meaty dish that was on it before touches a milchik dish, on which there's some residue of some cheesy dish or whatever. Okay, it's all cold, correct? Is there absorption? Is there bili'ah? No Rav on earth could claim there's bili'ah in that situation. Correct?
Water. It's hot water.
There's not water.
There's hot water.
No, wait. First, when you put them in the dishwasher together, and they may even touch. Is there any bili'ah at this point? No. And then what happens? Then the dishwasher then begins to work, and it begins to rinse everything. Correct? Rinses it initially with cold water, and that removes most of what's initially on the plate or on the fork or whatever it is, and then the water gets hotter, and it begins to and it works together with the detergent. Now the detergent, I'm sure everyone would agree, is noten ta'am lifgam. Right? What does that mean? The concept of ta'am lifgam is as follows. Most people don't know this halakha, but let's say you take a pot. It doesn't matter what the pot's made of right now. A pot that absorbs. Let's just, in the case of the time of Chazal, we're talking about a kedera shel heres, as Rambam writes in Ilchot Ma'achalot HaSurot, which clearly absorbs. So it's made of earthenware, porous earthenware. But let's say you believe that a stainless steel pot absorbs. It doesn't really, but let's say it does. I once asked Rav Moshe Antelman, who was also had a doctorate in industrial chemistry. I once asked him, tell me, does stainless steel absorb? He said yes. I said, okay, how much? He said about 5 atoms. No, that's not exactly a chad b'shishim. It's not even a chad b'shishim million. It's not even 1 in 60 billion. 5 atoms is something that you can't even conceive of. In other words, practically speaking, there's no bili'ah. On some hypothetical chemical atomic level, there is something going on there, but it's not relevant halachically. It's not in the realm of human affairs. It's something which you can't even measure really. That's what he said to me. So what does it matter what the pot's made of right now? You have a pot, a meat pot, in which you cooked a meat dish. and that was yesterday. And you removed all the whatever was in that pot was either consumed or was removed and put into a container. Now the pot is whatever remains in the pot. Let's say you rinsed it out. You didn't even wash it terribly well. You washed it sort of, kacha kacha. You didn't do a great job, but it's been washed. Okay, and you put it aside. That was yesterday. Now today, you take that pot with whatever residual meaty grease or residue that may still be in that pot, and you cook pasta with cheese in it. Is that pasta mutar b'achila or asur b'achila? Is it mutar to eat that pasta or not? Most Jews think chas v'shalom, have to toss everything out, toss out the pot, toss out the pasta. Not true. The pasta is mutar b'achila because noten ta'am lifgam. Why? Because it's something that sits out for a day. It's no longer only noten ta'am lishvach is asur, which in other words a taste that would be somehow beneficial or considered desirable and tasty. Something which is considered undesirable, something which is maybe even gross, something which is disgusting, and certainly not appealing. That's called noten ta'am lifgam. So anything washed with detergent, especially modern dishwasher detergents, which are very powerful to the extent that certain dishes you're told not to place in the dishwasher because the dish or the certain utensils will not survive the environment of these high power detergents with hot water, etc. They will be affected by it, and not in a positive way. So certain things are not even dishwasher safe. So clearly, anything that was there would be, if you can imagine after going through a dishwasher, there's still something left. It's obviously, it's batel legamre, and anything that was inside the dishwasher is all pagum. It's all not considered to be meat and not considered to be milk. It's not considered to be anything at all. So there's no possible reason, there's no possible explanation halachically to claim that you can't have these things in the same dishwasher together.
What if you have a dishwasher where sometimes people put things in that they didn't rinse properly before, things stay on it,
okay,
and it continues to stay on it even during the run. And so let's say, okay, if you put in the detergent, I understand it creates pagum, but what if
you stack the dishes in a reasonable manner so the machine can actually get to everything? Because if you overstack it and it's not done properly, then it's possible that some part, but even so, the water with detergent will get to everything. Maybe something will remain stuck and not be removed.
What if you forgot to put in detergent?
Well, even then, what's going to happen? You're going to have water mixing with all these various residual substances mixing up with the water. Is there going to be even something close to a chad b'shishim between the residual particles of food inside the dishwasher and the amount of water that's in the dishwasher? Of course not. It wouldn't even be 1 in 1,000, let alone 1 in 60. Correct. So the whole idea of there being some possibility of ta'arovet, of admixture, which would be asur, is not halachically or rationally viable at all.
Wouldn't the same the same type of doubt be unreasonable in factories when there might have been a mixture of something on the line like that? If there might have been, but it's unlikely that there would have been, then that shouldn't be a chashash. Right?
I don't know to what you refer.
They said that sometimes they say, there might have been a mixture of some ingredient. Whatever it might be. Whatever the ingredient.
What ingredient? What are we talking about? I can't relate to that. You have to be more specific. What are we referring to?
I don't even remember the specific example, but that's the classic reason that things are deemed not to be kosher.
What things? You give me. I don't know. I can't relate to something vague.
It looks fine. I think we're saying about the ingredients. It looks fine, but you say, so what could possibly be the issue? Oh, because you don't know.
No, that's something different. That's something different. First of all, in general, the more you make an effort to eat, that your diet is not based on processed foods of any kind, the better. And the less processed it is, the more you know what it is that you're actually eating. the more processed it is, the less you know what you're eating. That's number one. That's not so much a question of kashrut, that's a question of common sense and good advice from a nutritional and health perspective. Second of all, modern food technology and production is such that you do need to be something of an expert with regards to all kinds of processes and things that go on. For example, certain colors are actually of insect origin, right? For example. Now, if you might not know that because it just says color, or it says color red, or it gives red and a few numerals after it. You don't know what this is. It actually comes from some kind of an insect. Okay. Now, does that mean that actually the product is not kasher, or you should not allow to eat? Not necessarily. But because is there any ta'am? The color, in terms of the color, it comes from an insect. True, which is asur. Insect is asur, but does it actually have an impact on the flavor, of the ta'am of this product? I don't know. Very often, likely not at all. But that's a separate question. Another similar example would be gelatin, for example. Gelatin can be made produced from different sources. Let's say it's made from the bones of animals. We find, the fact is that Chaim Gajensky in Achiezer writes mefurash that gelatin made from bones of non-kosher animals is mutar. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said it's asur. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein brought a raya from the Rambam. When I looked at that raya, la'niyut dati, en bezer raya. It's not true. I'm not going into the details now, but that's not a good argument. The question is there any ta'am? Does this gelatin have any ta'am that affects the flavor of the thing that you're eating? The answer is no. As far as I know, there's no ta'am at all. It can also be made from fish, it can be made from different things. There's also vegetable gelatin, whatever. But something where the ta'am is completely cannot be noticed in any way, that's the critical question. And we know, but it's also correct. It's also true to say that most Jews would prefer not to consume anything which in any way is connected to some insect or to some non-kosher animal bone or what have you. But that doesn't necessarily follow that thing is asur min adin. But in order to lechatchila, we should. It's correct that kashrut organizations try and ensure that the product is free of any such thing for all kinds of reasons. It sounds better. It's more. Jews will feel better about it, which is fine. That's also a good reason. The fact that Jews feel better or not so don't feel so good about something is also a possible consideration. At any rate, with regards to a dishwasher, I think it's mutar without doubt to use even at the same time. Clearly, even kal v'chomer, it's mutar to use it one after the other. In other words, to run it with flashik dishes, and then afterwards you run it with milchik dishes. But that's mutar. But I say it's even mutar to have them together at the same time.
Would that apply even if the dishes are non-kosher at all?
Sorry?
If the dishes are completely not kosher?
What do you mean?
Some sort of shared dishwasher, let's say in an office, and you have your own dishes and whatever, and you're all putting it in there. So there's like dishes that had a ham sandwich, whatever, in the dishwasher together.
Okay, and then what happens? So you put your coffee mug in this dishwasher, right, and someone else had a ham sandwich on a plate, and now they're in the same dishwasher. Yeah. Explain to me how something from the ham sandwich is going to end up inside your coffee mug. How? How's that going to happen?
So even the chatafila, like the Rabbi
I don't see any inyan at all. First of all, also keep in mind, in reality. It depends on the material, obviously. Stainless steel doesn't. There's no once I saw a study that spoke about absorption in stainless steel, modern stainless steel dishes to be one part in 40,000. Well, 1 part in 40,000 is a little bit more than echad b'shishim, right? A little bit more than 1 in 60, even if that's true. Okay. I also would have assumed, for example, I'm not a chemist, and I'm not a material engineer. I don't know. I would have assumed that aluminium absorbs more than stainless steel, but according to the things that I've read, it's the opposite. So various materials don't absorb, practically speaking, at all. But certain things that we do use, such as cast iron, do absorb, obviously more, but obviously much less than earthenware. Right? Now all the halachot, when Rambam brings all the halachot to do with ta'aruvot and mixture of dishes and foods and what have you, he says explicitly he says this is all referring to a kadira shel haris. And there's a reason he says that, because he knows that's what Chazal were talking about. And earthenware utensils clearly absorb. True. The Ravad writes explicitly in his day, and they didn't have stainless steel pots in the time of the Ravad. He says with regards to klei matachot, this is brought in the Beit Yosef. He says tzarich l'sha'er yafeh yafeh. Those are his words. But okay, so masha'er to sha'er. So how much do you think? An earthenware pot you have to be concerned with the chad b'shishim, etc. 1 in 60. When it comes to let's say a cast iron pot, which absorbs much more than stainless steel, but how much is it? 1 in chad b'shishim? No. Is it 1 in 1,000? Maybe, I don't know, something probably along those lines, or I don't know, whatever it is. It's probably way, almost certainly much less than, almost indescribably less absorption than an earthenware. Okay, so the Ravad says explicitly, "Yesh l'sha'er yafeh yafeh." You have to somehow calculate and consider how much this material that you're discussing could possibly absorb. Now, so how much is a stainless steel fork that you have in your dishwasher? How much is it going to absorb? The answer is nothing. That's the real answer. And how much is a coffee mug going to absorb? The answer there also is nothing. When the Geonim and the Rishonim speak about dishes that are overlaid with a glaze, they're not talking about porcelain glaze. They're talking about lead and other metals, porous metals that were which were poured over, which were the earthenware plate or pot or bowl was covered in evar. The Rambam speaks about, and the Geonim speak about kelim that were made of heres, but they're covered with evar. All right, but that's light years away from modern porcelain and glazed materials. You can say, well, some people would say, well, sometimes it chips and it cracks. You're right. Sometimes it does chip and crack. Sometimes, not that often, but it happens. And even if that was the case, are we talking again? If you have the plate from the ham sandwich and your coffee mug which has a tiny chip in it, is it shayach to really think in terms of bliya of what exactly? I don't know. It's hard to imagine. These things are so far removed from any halachic reality, not to mention any kind of physical, chemical reality, that I don't think these discussions are really meaningful at all. Now, some people may ask, if that's the case, why do you need 2 sets of dishes? And the answer is, maybe you could get away with 1 set of dishes, but I wouldn't recommend I do not recommend to anyone to do that. Why? First, there is a matter of tradition, and there is also a matter of practicality. It's a good practice to know that meat and milk don't mix, and we have separate things for this and for that. And yes, sometimes not all people have dishwashers, and some people don't wash their dishes very thoroughly, and sometimes you may have something left on this plate and you want to use it for something else. So I would not suggest to anyone l'chatchila to use 1 set of dishes for everything. But if you were in a situation where you had to use 1 set of dishes for a time because you had no other option, halachically, I think you could definitely get away with it. If you knew that things were washed very thoroughly, yes, it would be possible. Certainly, when you're talking, let's say a family says, "I haven't got money for 2 sets of dishes. I want to have 1 set of dishes. I'm going to buy glass dishes." Glass doesn't absorb. You can say what you like, but it doesn't absorb. It's mefurash in Chazal that it doesn't absorb, by the way. The fact that there are 1 or 2 Rishonim who claim otherwise is rather unusual. But most Rishonim understand, as the Ran writes Mefurash, that glass doesn't absorb, and most Rishonim write this. It's obvious to anyone who looks at a glass that doesn't absorb. That's the whole purpose of having a glass bottle like this, that it's inert, it's chemically inert. It doesn't react with anything. So nothing can be absorbed, it's obvious it doesn't absorb. So if you have, let's say, a set of glass plates, glass dishes, Pyrex also has the din of glass, by the way. So Hagan Rav Shaul Yisraeli Zitzal said to me Mefurash when I asked him, and then if you want to know when I asked him, I'll tell you. I remember it was Rosh Chodesh Nisan Tavshin Mem Bet. That's when I asked him, and it was right after I got married, and that's one of the questions I asked him about Durex dishes, etc. Has a din of glass. He said yes, Mefurash. So, and that's also obvious. It's true, it's a glass that's been treated in a certain way so that it doesn't crack and what have you, it doesn't shatter, but it has the essential chemical properties of glass.
Okay, that's why in the local place they call it Jena glass, because it's glass from Jena.
Right, exactly. So yes, you could get away with those such dishes. You could get away with one set if you had no choice, but I wouldn't recommend doing that as a matter of course.